4 days when he came back and he said, Dad, I want to live here. I said, okay. You not call me Dad now. So here, remind me of some other stories, Jeffrey.
I don't know.
How about stories about Animator Jane?
Well, the only one I did that where she wrote a letter. It was a crying shame. It was so funny. Where she wrote that the boys are always don't have to work. They have to clean up the garden and the outside and cut the lawn and all. That's all they do. But Jane and I have to clean all the inside the house, everything. And letters this size. We are slaves. I still have that, and that I still it is really something. Remind me again.
What, another story?
Yeah. You kids must have heard them all the time. Oh, Jeffrey was funny all the time. Every time I told him, one time I said, Jeffrey, run around the house 3 times. So he goes around the house. Now the first time he ran around the house, I'll give him that credit. But after that I said, Jeffrey, run around the house. Now the front of the house we had a very large glass window. And Jeffrey would go out the door, drop to the floor, drop to the ground, crawl over to the other side of the window, stand up and walk by, drop to the ground, crawl over to the other side, get up, walk by. So whatever number of times, that's what he did. So that became a big laugh. It showed ingenuity, if nothing else.
That's me. You talk about the family picnics?
Oh yeah. One day I decided, one thing I've tried to always get across to my kids what family is. When all else goes, family is what's left. And give me that.
What?
The iced tea.
Smile.
And for that, with that idea in mind, I started getting the family together on a picnic on Memorial Day. Now the usual people came, you know, and but I wanted more. I wanted more people to come. So I looked around and kept getting further out with relatives and getting them there. And it was always fun. The kids loved it. Every year before the notices were sent out, the kids would say, are we going to the picnic? So, every one of them. Because every one of them seemed to remember that picnic. And, I'm trying to think of the very beginnings. However, like one person I know could never come until after about 5, 6 years he finally came. Well, I'll tell you, after that, he sounded as if he's been coming for 10 years, and we only had it 7. Well, he loved it. He just loved it with all his kids there and all that stuff. And you go to try and find out all the various people we had, and many of the people say, now, this girl here, how's she related to me? Well, she's just you know, and it pretty well worked out. But they just didn't know. Ed Kane, he said one of his boys one time looked at him and said, don't we have any relatives? And he said, he had come one time and said, well, you got thousands of them down there. So, but the kid never did come. And, but Tom came and all his kids, and we got about 100 people there. And it was a good time. All the little kids, I'll never forget Mrs. Lorenz. You know, every year she would bring her little boy. And he was, you know how they are, they walk in prim and neat, and then in the middle of the day they're, you know, like that and dirty and everything else. Mrs. Lorenz would get out new clothes, refit them. 5 o'clock or you know, going home, he'd be the same way. So all the kids were, and we always played our baseball and tug of war and the three-legged man race and all that sort of thing. They all loved it, and when they were at home, boy, they fell asleep. It was very interesting to me to see how many relatives we had. We had many more than that. Some didn't come, which I have never been able to understand. I don't know. But they never came to our picnic. Cousin Alice loved it. She met everybody, all her relatives, without it being a funeral. And her cousin, she enjoyed it, but Alice got the biggest kick out of it. So anyway, it went on for 14 years until I just couldn't take it anymore. I just couldn't, and I just had to call it off. But we had good parties, and for some reason or other, I've always been able to have a good party. You know, so other people may try the same thing and they can't do it. When we lived at home with my brothers, we always had parties. You know, we had the system: dining room table out, roll up the dining room rug, and dance there. And lots of cold cuts, you know, beer. Mostly beer. We couldn't afford that much whiskey, but we knew everybody. I never forgot the one New Year's Eve, when everybody had come back from after World War I. Well, I don't know how many people we had at that party, but the next morning we put out 52 empty whiskey bottles.
World War II,
Yeah,
not World War One.
World War II, I'm sorry. It was, all we could do was shake our head in amazement at that. But we were used to throwing parties. one time, my brother, I don't know how they ever got into our party, but a scraggly looking guy walked in. He had one arm, and he comes up to my brother John, wants to tell him his ills. Brother John said, "Tell your troubles to Jesus." I think the guy was shocked. But anyway, they were all great parties. There were no great parties. There was nothing basically great about them. They were just parties, but every time they were successful, everybody had a good time and all that. Now, it's also like when your mother had a shower at my mother's house. Now, I always feel that when the girls have a shower and they get together and yak, it's not much fun. So I said, what we're going to do is we're going to have you girls go in there for so much time, and then the men will be right here in the kitchen, so you just take your time. Well, I'm telling you, that party turned out to be a winger digger. Your mother had never seen the sun come up until that day. And, but she loved it. And they were good to her, too. Oh, another thing about Auntie Kay. Her father and mother didn't want her to go to the convent. I don't know why. So your mother said, "Can we pay the money?" So she said, "It's $300. And I said, "Well, okay, we'll do that." And we gave her the 300, and then there was some other excess money there, so she worked in the office, and then another week she minded you kids while we went up to Canada. So, we paid all the bills in there, I don't know, $500, I guess. But, and then the other thing, Auntie Kay, I wanted all our family to go to the Holy Year in Rome. And going in that manner, it was something like $600 a piece. And we wanted to invite Auntie Kay. So that was fine. But I got sick. And then we had to make good on Auntie Kay, and then the first thing you know, Auntie Kay said, "Now I have to go to Spain, it would cost me $2,400. When I figured it was going to cost me $600 each. So I didn't like that at all. But anyway, we paid it and she went. And I love Pop-Up, but he says, "My daughter's in Rome." Well, he never did a damn thing about it. Yeah. But anyway, one night he said, "I paid a lot for that girl in that convent." He said, "I was paying $10 a month." And Auntie Kay just laughed. But anyway. But it was Brian, when remember you kids, the reason I sent you to Waldron was I didn't want to send you to Callistus. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
And you were in there in the kindergarten with, what was her name? The woman was wonderful.
I remember kindergarten.
A lot more about Waldron and you kids going on to Radnor. You made the decision. I left the decision to you guys, and I heard you talking that night, and I thought, you come down the next morning and said, we'd like to go to Radnor. I had pointed out to Tom that, you know, you have many more kids and all this stuff. So anyway, he did go to Radnor, and I was very happy too. That, I think you had more fun at Radnor than you would ever have at Waldron. What else?
Jane singing.
Mom Jane singing. Well, Jane's been singing. I remember Nishama, the Mississippi, whatever it is, the song from her kindergarten. And she's been singing all her life. You know, people just want to look at a singer and say, boy, but that singer has been singing since the age of 6. And that's the way Jane's been doing it. And so she had a good voice. And then she got into the Spirit at the high school. And she won 2 medals, which is right. And she doesn't understand what I'm trying to get at. When I tell her she should have them made and put on her thing. But I know she'll do well. I know she'll do well. She has a great desire, fire in the belly, they call it, and she'll do it.